Welcome to this session of Achieving Your Optimal Health. This is a series that's focused on helping each participant to set a goal, to determine how to reach that optimal health. Wherever you are, there's a gap between where you are perhaps and where you'd like to be. And we're going to help you cover that gap. And we have, at this point, 18 webinars from a group of health provider experts. And today, our focus is going to be on muscle checking allergies. And the presenter today, we're pleased to have Holly McClenahan. And we actually recorded or tried to record this webinar earlier. This is a retake, so you're going to only see Holly and I. We actually had a room full of people during the original, but I had a technical issue. The recording didn't work. So you've got Holly and I today. And I want to give a little background. Oh, before I get into Holly's background, which is just amazing. What I'd like to do is just point out what you're seeing in the center of your screen. My website is currently down for maintenance, but I wanted to show you the page, and it'll be up by the time you see this video. The page should be back up, and you'll go to LasVegasAreaTrails.com/health education. So LasVegasAreaTrails.com/health-education. And what you will see is this page where you see our entire webinar series. You can register for an upcoming webinar at this link. And then you can see all the webinars that we have completed thus far. They're in green, and you click on one of these green links. And what you're going to do is go to a page where you can see the theme of the webinar, the title of the webinar, learn about the benefits of listening to that webinar and what you're going to learn in the webinar. And then you'll be able to find the webinar replay video. And under that will be the webinar slides and webinar notes. So basically, each one of these links is to a very powerful webinar, informative webinar, and all the information that you need to really gain some new insight on the subject that is going to help you to achieve your optimal health or move further toward your optimal health. So that being said, today's webinar is with Holly McClenahan, and her theme is muscle checking allergies, which she's going to explain in a moment. But I want to give a background. It's a little involved, but it's very impressive, and it's going to let you know what's behind Holly's expertise, what went into creating the person that's here with us today. And Holly has a number of designations after her name: RN, CTH, Bioresonance Practitioner, HSE, Trauma Resolution Specialist, Inner Greatness Coach, Shamanic Touch Practitioner, and Golden Eagle Minister. So these things maybe Holly will bring out if I don't adequately explain them in the bio. But Holly is a certified tribal healer, is president of Harmony Health in Las Vegas. Holly's a master of assessment. She finds energetic disturbances, their sources, and the interventions required for resolution. She uses the knowledge of the connection between your energy and your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual state of being, and moves you into a state of harmony and wellness. Holly's had 40 years of experience in the healing field. She began her career as a nurse, first working as a nursing assistant in geriatrics starting at age 14. She graduated from the University of Kentucky, obtained her registered nurse license in 1978. So she's had a really um, experience and involved career in healing, helping others. She maintained a CCRN license as a neurosurgical trauma ICU nurse at Loma Linda University Medical Center in Loma Linda, California, and at Barlow Neurological Institute at St. Joseph's Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. Now let's fast forward to 1992. After severe illness, which included post-traumatic stress, seizures, and a near-death experience, she deepened her personal search for healing. She now uses energy techniques based in quantum physics, Native American traditions, ancient healing traditions, and innovative technology. And there are a few people on our team who began in traditional medicine and then moved to a more holistic approach. And perhaps at some point, Holly can explain that transition in her life. She began her studies in energy medicine in 1992, and since 1996 has owned her own practice. Holly's been a teacher throughout her career, first training nurses in ICU, then as a national and international trainer for BICOM and bioresonance technology, and now in classes of her own design. Holly spent 10 years studying with the Native American Sergei Running Wolf Martel, who ordained Holly as a Golden Eagle minister, trained her as a shamanic touch practitioner, Reiki master, and teacher. Holly attended the Institute of Regulatory Medicine in Munich, Germany, and is a bioresonance practitioner. She managed New Hope Clinic, a specialized bioresonance cancer clinic in Tijuana, Mexico, that treated cancer patients and chronic illnesses. Holly is trained as a trauma resolution specialist and integrateness coach to assist in resolution of mental, emotional, and spiritual issues, including PTSD, depression, and anxiety. She is continually expanding her studies to bring new technologies to her clients. And so now, with that introduction, I'd like to present Holly McClenahan, and Holly is going to present muscle checking allergies.
Here we go. Well, first of all, again, thank you, David, for that beautiful introduction, and I really appreciate that. So my talk today is muscle checking allergies, bioresonance approach. And before I start, I want to give you a kind of a background of why I'm involved with it and what it means to me. So when I was learning about bioresonance in Germany, and I was learning an allergy class, one of the things that they do is muscle check you, which you'll learn in this webinar. And they muscle check that I was the person to come up and give the demonstration with the instructor. And I said, I don't have allergies. And he said, well, it doesn't matter. You're the one that's going to come up and demonstrate for the class. I'm like, okay. So I got up there, and sure enough, he found a wheat allergy on me, and on a severity scale of 0 to 10, it was a 10, which means it was very severe. And I said, I don't really have any reactions to wheat that I'm aware of. And he said, well, what's your allergy history? And I had to really think hard, and I thought, oh, well, when I was a child, I was allergic to a lot of things. I had all that testing where they prick your back and they prick your arms with the substance to see if it causes a whelp or some type of reaction that they can say, oh, you do have an allergy to this. Because at that time, there were no blood tests for IgAs and any of the other allergy type of testing that they did through the blood. So I had lots and lots of allergies. They were very vague allergies. They were things like dust and peanut butter and ragweed and all these different type of grasses. And they started me on allergy shots. And so for twice a week for like 2 years, I had to go to the doctor and get a allergy shot. And then after 2 years of that, then they increased it. So I only had to go once a week. And then in 6th grade, I had an emergency appendectomy and was almost burst. They said if they got me in there any last time, then I would have been in really big trouble. So thank goodness for that. I went ahead, had my appendix removed, and afterwards, when I went back to getting my shots, I started having reactions to them, and the doctor finally said, "You don't need them anymore. I don't know what happened, but you don't need them anymore." So I never had to take another allergy shot again, and thus I thought, I don't have any allergies, and I never thought about it again till I got to this class. Well, in the middle of this being treated for this wheat allergy, which actually was only showing up in my brain and not in other zones, which again, I'll speak about in this webinar. And in the middle of getting the therapy to cancel out the energy of the wheat allergy, I felt this melancholy lift from me that I actually had always had my whole life, I think. And matter of fact, it triggered a memory of a boyfriend in 8th grade who wrote me a poem and said, named it Melancholy Holly.
Oh.
And I never understood it. And I actually felt kind of angry at him. Like, what do you mean melancholy? I'm not melancholy. It's like, but I did feel this melancholy lift that I guess had always been with me, and it has never returned. So that was my only symptom. So sometimes when people think of allergies, they think of the extreme with breaking out, not able to breathe, throat closing up, lips swelling, tongue swelling. But there are so many more ways for an allergy to show up. And so I'm going to go over that with you. But I just wanted to let you know that that was my experience in using bioresonance in the first time for treatment for a wheat allergy for me.
Okay.
So we're talking about two different things here. Muscle checking, which is the technique for identifying allergies and intolerances, to rate severity of the allergy or intolerance, and to identify the zones that these allergens affect. Bioresonance, on the other hand, is the modality used to eliminate or decrease the allergic response. The idea is to use, we'll talk about muscle checking first because that is the precursor to treatment anyway. So the idea is to use muscles to show a weak or strong response whenever presented with an allergen. Now, you may know someone that did some muscle checking with you. You see the little picture on the right-hand side where the person is pressing down on the arm. Well, it is a way of finding out whether the person would have a strong response or a weak response, because muscles are binary and they can contract or relax. So being a binary system, it can be like an on or an off, a strong or a weak. So again, this binary system, now we can access the body-mind system and find out what you are resonating to as causing an allergic response in the body. And this is just based on the circuits of muscles. There's a lot of different techniques that use muscle checking or muscle testing. And it might be like, so of course, bioresonance does with the technology I use. And resonance repatterning, which is something that looks at unconscious life-depleting beliefs and then is able to shift them using things like movement, sound, color, aromatherapy. So I was also a bioresonance resonance repatterning practitioner when they called it holographic repatterning. And I did that for many years until I moved on to techniques for me that worked faster and better. LEAP is another technique that uses muscle testing. Body talk, touch for health, applied kinesiology, one brain. There's all kinds of different ways it can be used. One of it is in all of these techniques that use the muscle checking, it's important to have agreed upon intentions when you're using a technique like that. So, and one of the other things about muscle checking, some people will say muscle testing, and for me, the testing implies that you're testing someone, and some people have a real aversion to that. So I like using muscle checking, because all we're doing is checking to see if there's a resonance or a non-resonance with something. That means, are you strengthened when you're exposed to it, or are you weakened when you're exposed to it?
Hmm.
So this picture is actually talking about how toxic our society is right now. It's very interesting. In the past 10 years, I have started seeing such an increase in allergies that I am just like very surprised at in some ways, but in other ways I'm not. Because if you look at this barrel, this is us. And we have things, normal stress, we're just living in the world we're living with. But now we're having a whole lot of electrosmog, this coming from computers and telephones and all these different type of electronic devices that we're using. Maybe someone has some funguses, intestinal fungi, and so it's creating, again, another stress on the system. Maybe they get exposed to formaldehyde. Maybe they've moved into a new house, and the formaldehyde off-gassing of new building materials is another stress on their system.
Hmm.
And then preservatives. Look at all the preservatives in our food, and not only preservatives, but a lot of the chemicals that are used for growing our food, and then you're eating them. And also the animals that, if you eat animals, are also eating maybe grasses or hays or different types of grains that were sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, and then those also go into the cow to make up the cow or the or whatever animal, and then we eat them. So again, that raises our level of stress. Amalgam. How many of you have had those mercury fillings? They're silver. And
Yep.
if they're silver, they have mercury in them. They may have other substances like zinc or nickel or things like that, but they have mercury in them. And
You know what,
mercury,
there's
yeah,
there's a saying, a mad hatter. And
yeah,
actually, people that made hats when that saying was developed used mercury in the process of making the hats, and it caused them to go a bit crazy. And that's where the saying "Mad Hatter" comes from, amalgam.
yes, I'm aware of that, David. That's excellent example. Yeah, and not only that, but fungus will grow on amalgam, well, on mercury in the body to try to
Mm,
eat it up and break it down so the body can get rid of it. So I see uh, fungal infections with patients that have mercury in their mouth.
wow.
It's extremely common. It's not, matter of fact, it usually goes hand in hand, and you have to treat both.
Mm, wow.
So, so now you've got, if you just look at all these stresses and everything, and now you're overreactive. Your system is stressed out, it's overreactive, and now all of a sudden you put a milk intolerance over that, and you're just having now reaction to everything. You're having a reaction to detergent you use. You're having a reaction to some type of food that you had never had a reaction to before, ever. And that's because of this stressed system that's got too many toxins in it and trying to handle too many things. So this is just a good example. So that's why I'm thinking that now this environment is so toxic for us in so many ways, especially if you live in a city. You've got all that automobile fumes that, you know, skies may be clear, but you're still having automobile and gasoline fumes in the air with everything. And then you may be someone that lives near a plant that is spewing toxins in the air. I know there's many communities that actually have an experience of increased cancer rates near some of these plants that are spewing all this toxin into the air. And so you know, those areas, I might even see a lot more people having reactions like with hay fever with seasonal changes, with foods and all types of things. Possible symptoms of allergies. And I love this chart because so many people think allergies, like I said, are just throat closing up, face swelling, lips swelling. You know, a lot of people will carry shots to the epinephrine shots to give themselves because they have such super reactions in that way. And it can be life-threatening. But think about these different other symptoms of allergies that might show up that maybe you have never even thought were related to allergies, like acne, canker sores, sinusitis, runny nose. Oh, I'm going to tell you a story about a runny nose. So
You're hitting
I had a
home.
patient, I had a patient come to me and she was allergic to everything. It was very, very early in my career with bioresonance. And she had several epi shots that she carried with her because she was so allergic to everything from food to trees to dust to who knows what. So she carried several epi shots with her, and she came to me and she said, you know, can you work with me? And I said, well, I'm just learning, so let's try it. 6 months of treatments, maybe about once every 2 to 3 weeks. I treated her. Sometimes it was once a week for a while in the beginning, and then it went to like every other week. And after 6 months, she only had sniffles to pine. That is it. And she was thrilled. If you can imagine, she was able to throw away those EpiPens, eat whatever she wanted, and she had just a little bit runny nose and sniffles to the pine. So that reminded me of that. So other symptoms that you might see of allergies, which you may be familiar with, are itching, psoriasis, edema, which is swelling, eczema, neurodermatitis, which is rashes on the skins, diarrhea, gas, bloating, colicky, constipation, fluctuating weight, hypoglycemia, uncomfortable fullness in the bowels and the abdomen.
And every time I see a list like this, I think, hey, I have all these.
Right. That's why I say a lot of people have allergies and have no idea that they do. Irritable bowel is another symptom. Polyuria, which means that you have increased urination. Dysuria, which means painful urination. Inability to hold the urine. Frequent urination. And susceptibility to urinary tract infections. Headache, migraines, hyperactivity, insomnia, depression, anxiety, panic, fatigue, aggressiveness, confusion, inner agitation. This is in that category is where my melancholy would have gone. Anaphylactic shock, which again is the most severest medical emergency with the allergies. Asthma, recurrent infections, fluctuations in blood pressure, tachycardia, which means fast heart rate, and extrasystole, which means extra beats of the heart. Joint pain, muscle pain, bursitis, rheumatoid arthritis, and autoimmune issues. Now, that's pretty extensive list. Now, you might be wondering, oh my goodness, really? Well, how are you going to know whether it's allergy related or something else? Well, for me, in dealing with these allergens, the first step is going to identify the one that is most severe. And I have special test kits, which at the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you the test kits so you have an idea what I'm talking about. But they're little vials, and they're about this big, and they carry signatures, frequency signatures for foods, environmental toxins, animals, fungi, any type of thing you can imagine. I have lots of test kits of these. And
you're talking about everything. If you boil things down to the very smallest particle that makes up everything that we see, know, it's energy. So everything is
absolutely
energy.
Absolutely. So not only that, but some of the test kits actually have some of the substance in them. It's a different line of test kit for me. Some of them just have the frequency signature in it. And sometimes I actually have people bring in what they're having an allergic reaction to, because it's unique to where they're buying it and where they're using it sometimes. So if I don't have it in a test kit, which would be unusual, but it's possible because there's a lot of different foods and things, I have them bring in the substance that they use at their own home.
And so everything gives out its own energy frequency.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then I want to know, how severe is the allergy? And so I use a 1 to 10 scale. 1 is minor, 0 is it's not there, and 10 is the worst it could be for your body, whatever that means. So it's important to, when I test someone on the allergen, not only to find the most severe one, but how severe is it? So for me, again, in my experience with the wheat, it was a 10. So it was the worst it could be for me. It was really disrupting me in a lot of ways. So then the next step is I check what allergy zone is actually affected by the allergen. And there's 5 zones, and I'll also show you pictures of where these zones are, so it really kind of sticks in your head a little better. But digestive, liver, spleen, thymus, and the brain, right and left side and back of the brain, I also test. Depending on which allergy zone is weakened, that's where you're going to see your symptoms a lot of times. So digestive system, you're going to see a lot of the skin issues and digestive problems that was on that list of the bloating and constipation or diarrhea, or, you know, it's just whatever has to do with the gut. Liver is going to be more about how the liver is able to help break that down, and it may not have an easy time of that, which causes blood to be more congested and toxins to be floating around and more white blood cells to pick up what the liver was not able to detoxify out. Spleen is going to represent more about the immune system, and thymus is going to be about the energy system. So it's the thymus and brain issues are not going to show up on an allergy blood test, because you're not building up IgAs to that, or antibodies to the allergen. With the digestive, liver, and spleen, you may see blood work that does show some antibodies built up against that allergen.
So are you going to tell us how, like you've got an issue with the digestive system, are you going to tell us how that's connected with an energy frequency, how you can diagnose that energy frequency and then say, yes,
so you're holding, you have an ampule. I have an ampule with that,
okay,
with that substance or the frequency, and I do testing. Again, I'm going to show you some slides about how that testing is done.
Okay, so basically,
but
like,
no, I'm not identifying the exact frequency number. I'm identifying the allergic response and how severe it is and what zones it's affecting.
Okay, so when you were diagnosed with as a 10 with a wheat allergy, what was that through muscle checking, or was
Yes.
that through?
Yes, that was through muscle checking.
Okay, so it wasn't through energy frequency, but it was basically the muscle checking approach.
It was the muscle checking that identified it for me, yes.
Okay.
So here we have a precious little boy. This is actually my grandson when he was very small. He's 16 now, so he's not that small anymore. But the reason why he and his mother agreed for me to use him, because he loves the work I do, for one thing, and he totally believes in it because he's had the experience of it. So he was having these experiences where they were saying that he was Asperger, and he was having anxiety and all types of issues that would indicate he might have learning disorders. Okay. And I said, let me test him for allergies. And so I tested him for allergies, and sure enough, he had some allergies that were pretty severe. When we cleared his allergies, all his symptoms went away.
Wow.
And he is just a well-developed, there's no Asperger type symptoms with him. There's no learning disability with him. He's an excellent student, and it really was just allergies for him. So as you can see, I have my hand on his arm, and where the knuckle of my first finger is hitting on him, that's actually where I'm pushing when I test him. So he's holding a vial of wheat because that was one of his major allergens. And a lot of times if someone has an allergy to a food like wheat, you have to keep them off of it for a certain amount of time. What that amount of time is, I don't know. I have to muscle check them to find out when their system says I can have wheat again. And it took him about a year before he could have wheat again. He could still have it occasionally, but now it's just not a problem for him at all. But he still doesn't eat a lot of it because he just never got used to eating a lot of wheat. So this first picture, I'm muscle checking, which means I'm pressing down on his arm. And one of the ways, so when I'm testing to make sure that the muscle is working, I'm also checking to see that I get a good yes or no or strong or weak response. So I had him hold this. This is relates to the digestive system, an inch below the navel. He holds it there, and then I press. If the arm stays strong, for me and my techniques that I use with muscle checking, it indicates that there's no allergy. It doesn't weaken his system. If the arm goes down when I press it, it will indicate that that substance weakens his digestive system.
How do you know if somebody is moving consciously because they believe, their mind gives them an answer, and so they make their arm move? How do you tell the difference between that?
I set that up. It's called a rapport, setting up a rapport with the patient. And there's a whole technique of making sure you have good rapport with the patient, that not only I understand that what is a strong or weak response. To me, my clients need to understand that also. They need to be very clear that when I get a particular answer, that is accurate for them. Okay. And so it's about setting up the rapport in the beginning to make sure that they understand that I understand that, and they're on board for this. If they're fighting me the whole time, I don't really want to work with people like that. If they're trying to fight, if they're trying to fight and disprove it all the time, that's what they will get. Disproven. They will disprove it because they will believe in disproving it. So if I don't set up the rapport in the beginning, it makes it harder for anyone to be muscle checked. That's why a lot of people use muscle checking as a parlor game, and it's not. It's a very therapeutic thing. And people that do muscle checking have been trained in it, and have techniques and ways that they use it that they are very professional.
So you can create objectivity in something that somebody would look at and say, wow, this is really subjective. But the way you administer it, it really makes it an objective test.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of times they're surprised. They're like, whoa, I didn't realize that. Or sometimes they're like, I knew it. So a lot of times I'll tell people that muscle checking a lot of times can be considered amplification of your own intuition about yourself. So, yeah. Okay, so now in this picture, again, I'm not going to be pressing on his arm anymore because you saw how my hand was placed, and that's where I would test him as he's holding it. Again, noticing when I do test someone, their arm is at is slanted down. It's not an up like this, straight across or straight in front of you, because that stresses the shoulder. And I have lots of older people that have shoulder issues, and so this isolates the anterior deltoid muscles mainly. So the second one, this is showing him holding the ampule on his liver. This is the liver zone. It's set right over where the liver sits underneath there. So He holds it on the liver zone. Again, I check to see if that is strengthening or weakening. Here he's holding it on the spleen pancreas. And here he's holding it on the thymus. And the thymus, again, is your energy system. And so that's related to more, how does energy run in your system? It's not, are you full of energy and all excited, or are you like all tired? No, it's really, how does the energy flow in your system? If you're familiar at all with Chinese medicine and acupuncture, that's the flow of the energy meridians in the body. And sometime I'd like to do a webinar on the energy meridians. And
I look forward to that.
okay, so here he's holding it to his brain, other side of the brain, and back of the head. So those are the zones. Now, bioresonance is the biological resonance. Biological means the living body. So does the living body resonate with an allergen causing a weakness, or are you strengthened by it? So if you're checking wheat and you're strong, that would indicate your system is fine with it. It strengthens you, it's good. But if the arm goes down, we're looking at that it weakens your system in some way. So that's why it's called bioresonance, is because it's biological resonance. It's shortened. And that term was actually created by the Institute of Regulatory Medicine and the BICOM people that created the device I use. So this is at the top you see a picture of the BICOM. I'm going to turn this and I'll also show it again, but there's my BICOM device on my desk. And I'll also show it again when we go into big screen with showing you the ampules. But what happens is that someone will be connected to an electrode, like a little hand plate. I'll show that again at the end, for the incoming frequency, and the outcoming is then going to be a different pattern. Now, in the case of using ampules, the ampules are going to be placed in the input beaker, which captures the frequency information. I don't have to know what it is. I have to know what program to run for that. And there's over 350 programs in that BICOM I use. So I have to know which program to use. And I do that via muscle checking again. So the incoming frequency pattern of the allergen is given to the machine. The machine does not generate frequency information on its own. It has to have a source. So the source is the allergen. It goes in the input to the device, and then the output is connected to the patient, and the frequency given back to the patient is a completely opposite or inverted frequency pattern, so a mirror image of the frequency of the allergen. It's given back to the patient, and it eliminates the frequency pattern of the allergen from the patient. So you can see there, the pink line is the therapeutic frequency pattern. The black line is the frequency pattern of the allergen. And if you look at that wave pattern, the frequency wave pattern, you can see it's completely opposite. So what happens is that energy will collapse on itself or weaken the allergen information so that the body can heal itself.
And what you're saying is allergy creates a frequency in your body.
No, the wheat has a frequency in the body. Okay. And the wheat is what is causing the imbalance. It's causing the allergy.
So what you're doing is canceling out that frequency to create a frequency of health.
Yes, and what's very interesting about this technology is over 40 years old now. It's about 45 years old now. So it's nothing new. So that leads me to this. There were studies that were done. The efficacy observation of the German BICOM 2000, that's what I have. It was tested in 79 cases of allergic skin disease, and this was done in the Children's Hospital in China in 2005.
Okay.
And this paper will detail allergen detection and desensitization of therapy in 79 cases of these allergic skin diseases. And again, the rate of efficacy was 89.9%. And the cure rate, which Chinese can say this, is 74.7%. So that's huge. That means that 89.9% had improvement, but 74.7% of those actually no longer had allergens.
So how
And
does that compare to traditional therapies and results?
Not very, the traditional therapies are not that good.
Mm-hmm.
Look at me. I took shots for 3.5 years.
Mm.
And the only reason why I stopped having a reaction to my shots is because they took my appendix out, which I believe is actually some of the stress I was having in my body, that when they removed the stress, I naturally did not have a reaction to all those things that they had said I had.
Mm.
And David, to tell you the truth, I don't know right now what the rate of cure is for allergens. But again, my mother had severe allergies, and she was on drops, and she was on this and on that, and she never really actually eliminated the allergy response until she began working with me with this technology.
Okay, so likely this is a significant difference and improvement.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So this particular, when it talks about the introduction to the BICOM Congress in 2006, this was from Fulda, Germany, and this was a study that was done with, it's because it's really hard for y'all to read that. When you look at it later, you can enlarge it and look at it. But what this is saying, that they used a total of 241,664 patients in German practices.
Wow.
And of that, that was 300 out of 396 practices. So this was a huge study that was done. And the other criteria for this study was that the patients must have exhausted all treatment options by conventional medicine. So nothing conventional medicine had helped them. They'd exhausted everything they could do. Number two, they had to be treated by only bioresonance therapy for this study. Okay, so you've got all these patients, again, 241,000 patients, almost 242,000 patients, and this is the results. 46.7 were completely symptom-free. 34% experienced improvement, 13.1% slight improvement, and 6.2% no improvement. Now, if you add up 46, 34, and 13, you have an 80% of the patients that had improvement. 80 to 90% of the patients that had improvement.
Wow.
And that's amazing. You just don't get that in conventional medicine. This was another one that was done with clinical observation with treatment of allergic diseases. It was another one done that was in the pediatrics department in a hospital in China. Yeah, and you can say all that yourself. I don't really want to try to pronounce all that. Right? So the BICOM device was produced by the German company Regamed and was used in allergen detection and desensitization therapies in 154 patients. And the inverted and amplified biological wave of the allergen was transferred back to the human body for the purpose of desensitization and therapy. Results, the total efficacy rate of this was 89%, with a total cure rate of 78%.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
This is a picture of one of the little boys. This is what he looked like. And 3 weeks after his allergy treatment program, and temporary diet change, again, I said, if you've got an allergen and it's a food allergen, we're going to take all of that until it shows no reaction anymore.
Mhm.
So 3 years had gone by with this boy with no relapse.
Mm.
Completely different little boy. You can imagine his
Wow.
life must have been like.
Mhm.
I've seen cases like this again and again. Now, show you this. This is what on the left side, this is my grandson, what he looked like before allergy treatment. And this is what he looked like after allergy treatment. Not a lot of difference, but the majority of his problems were brain. He did not have digestive problems. He did not have liver problems. He did not have spleen energy problems. He didn't have, but which is your energy system, and brain were all tens and were all weak for him. So just because you look at someone and say, well, you don't look like you have allergies,
Mm.
it's true. Sometimes you don't look like you have allergies, but you might be having some symptoms in the brain or your energy system that really are causing a big problem for you.
Okay.
Okay, so this is my contact information. I'm Harmony Health. Again, that's my business name. I'm located inside Four Seasons Dental Spa, and I just want to give actually a shout out to them because this is a holistic biological dental office, and
Mm.
they remove mercury safely, and they use protocols that are excellent. And then along with me helping them to support these patients, their dental patients get excellent results with getting the mercuries out of their mouth.
Yeah, that
I mean,
is a complex process, and the challenge is not to let any mercury seep into the system as you're removing the amalgam fillings, and wow, that is a very delicate process.
yep, they're excellent at it. They're wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Jim Wright is a wonderful dentist. Wonderful.
Mhm.
Anyway, you can also go to my website, which is harmonyh.com, and you can find all my contact information on there, and you'll find a wealth of information. I actually have a film on there about bioresonance and how to use the device that you might be very interested in. So feel free to go on that site and search around for things that might interest you because I do work in a lot of different areas. This is one of the things I use in helping people to heal mental, physical, spiritual, emotionally. But
Mm.
it's actually a good website for just get educating yourself.
And could you tell us just really quickly about the tribal connection, the tribal shamanic connection?
Sure. I'm a certified tribal healer, and what that means is that I am under a banding agreement with the Crow Nation, and they also are the ones that licensed me as a certified tribal healer. What helped me to get that license was being a bioresonance practitioner and a nurse. I'm a
Mhm.
registered nurse. So all those things are covered under the tribal agreement. I'm also able to do my bioresonance practice here in the United States with no disturbance from outside sources. If they have a
Mhm.
problem, they have to go through our First Nation medical board, and then
Mm.
they would have to go through tribal court.
Okay.
Um, and so it's a protection so that I can do this work because the bioresonance work is actually used in just about every country in the world as a medical device.
Mhm.
And the United States has still not approved it as a medical device for humans, but it has approved it for medical device for animals for the
Mm.
past 10 years. And
Wow.
animals have no preconceived ideas. So if it works on animals, it works on us. And it is non-invasive and it has no side effects. So how much better can you get than that? Anyway, so when I have people work with me, I have them sign consents also, though, saying that this is for research purposes only.
Mhm.
So I wanted to show you some of the kit, what the kit looks like that is for testing. This is a Schumacher Test Kit. And this particular, so they have all these different ampules in here, which are lodged in here really well so they don't fall out. And this is what the ampules look like.
Egg white.
This one is egg white, right? See, they're small. Okay. And there's test kits. I have tons of test kits that have all types of different things. This particular test kit has cereals, fungi, vegetables, meats, nuts, animal epithelial, fruit, mites, and pollen. So I have, that's just one of them. So now let me show you this. I'm going to see if you can see the Bicom here.
Yep.
Okay. So on the Bicom here are input beakers. This is an input beaker. So I'm going to take this ampule and I'm going to put it in the input beaker, put the cap on it. So now the Bicom's connected with cables here, and it's going to pick up that frequency information depending on the type of program that I put in here.
Okay.
Then it's the frequency corrected is going to come out this green cable, following the green cable,
Okay.
all the way to a mat.
Okay. Your feet are
So
on
you're
the
going to be
mat.
laying on a mat, or you're going to have it placed over you, or it's going to be down the back, or something like that. And this mat then will emit that particular frequency so that to you, and that mat is an electromagnetic mat, which goes through bone, through tissue, through everything. So organs, everything. So everything is going to be affected by the frequency.
This makes me feel like the first person who the Wright brothers tried to explain that you could actually fly. and I have similar feelings, but now you look at that and everyone takes it for granted. So
right.
It's a different, new approach. And yet what you've done is you've shown us some real results to this approach.
Well, and what's interesting also with this is that this is not new. This is 45 years old.
Oh, wow. Yep.
That's not new.
It's new to us.
It's
in
right.
This country.
It's been improved upon and improved upon. But see, I
Right.
used to teach in Canada, UK, Mexico, and those groups, I actually worked myself out of a job because those groups became so big and their country accepted it that eventually there wasn't, I didn't need to be the teacher there. They got their own teachers.
Wow.
So United States is a little bit behind time, and I'm hoping that soon they'll be actually moving forward with this and this technology, because it is so helpful, especially with people that are suffering from allergies.
So pretty amazing. When you have something that is really a cutting edge, different approach that, it's been said over and over again, probably repeated too much, that, Einstein's saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And sometimes traditional medicine can be like that. And when somebody is open enough to receive that different result, you're the person that they should visit. So they can really have a different approach.
Sure. And, David, I have to say, coming from ICU for 20 years as a nurse, I'm not opposed to medicine. I believe Western medicine has a place and time, and it is necessary. But I'm just grateful that I worked in ICU, where I definitely saw how useful it was. Yeah. And I still work as a nurse in certain areas. So I'm not opposed to Western medicine. I'm just, we need to expand. We need to accept and expand things that are working worldwide.
And that's really a helpful attitude, as opposed to there's so much division in our culture, the red and the blue and everything else. And when you have a more collaborative approach, that is a strong approach. And when you apply it to healing, boy, that can be powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, any other questions, David?
Okay. Well, I've asked questions as we've moved along. I guess,
Great.
as I look at your bio and I look at the journey you've taken, I mean, you haven't just gone in one direction and done the same thing forever and ever and ever. You have continually been improving and always watching for what's next. What's next? How can I find the next thing that is going to create or help create greater healing? So, what is ahead for you, Holly?
Well, what I would like to see is I would like to see training centers in the United States for bioresonance, and I'm working
Mhm.
on that project right now with the owners of the Bicom company in Germany called Regamed, and I'm also working with another person looking at helping to end the suffering in the world by using awareness techniques as a trauma resolution specialist and inner greatness coach. So there's
Wow.
another project that's going on with that to actually help indigenous tribes clear generational trauma. And
Wow.
that for me is huge because I want to make the biggest impact I can for as long as I can, and especially on our emotional well-being in this world because so many people are suffering. And so that's kind of next steps for me. Um, it's always developing and always changing and always an interesting journey. But
Mhm.
what actually got me on this journey was a severe illness, which you said in the bio, myself, a post-traumatic stress and extremely severe. And Western medicine gave me no hope of recovery or a
Mhm.
very small 5% or less percentage of recovery. And I couldn't accept it. And that's what put me on this path of learning alternative ways of healing and alternative ways of helping people.
So, if somebody that's listening to this webinar replay wants to get involved in some way, what do they need to bring to the table? Do they need to have, like an RN degree and all the degrees that you have, or can they, uh, if they gave you a call, could you point them to where they can make a difference?
They just need to have the desire.
Okay.
Anyone who has the desire, I can steer them in a direction that fits their what's going on with them and what they're interested in because there's so many different avenues. You know, you can go Native American teachings, you can go quantum physics teaching, you can go spiritual teaching as I was trained as a Golden Eagle minister. There's so many different ways, and I'm sure if you wanted to talk to me, I could help steer you in the right direction.
Well, Holly, this has been a
All right.
real pleasure. And if even one person listening to this replay gets in touch with you and maybe finds a solution to something that's been troubling them, or can get involved in helping others, that will make this all worthwhile. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Holly. Okay, well, this concludes our webinar for today. And just to let you know, every other Wednesday, we have a webinar session in this Achieving Your Optimal Health series. And let me share the screen once again. And just to let you know, can you see the page again, Holly?
Yes.
Okay, great. So LasVegasAreaTrails.com/health dash education. And you can see replays that are webinars that were presented by others who have similar level of knowledge and expertise in various areas. And we're going to continue this. So who knows? There'll be 100 one of these days. But amazing, amazing. And if there's someone listening who would be interested in joining this series and presenting a webinar, definitely get in touch with me. And my contact information is on the website in the footer. So once it gets in onto its new server. So wait a couple days, but it'll be up, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. Okay. Thank you so much. This concludes our webinar.